From Dunlap High School in Dunlap, Illinois, Clutch Sports Media is proud to present live coverage of Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball. Tonight, a candidate for Game of the Year and a game that has more meaning than perhaps any game we've done this year. The Mid-Illini Conference tournament, or the Mid-Illini Conference regular season title, is on the line. It's the Dunlap Eagles hosting the Morton Potters, and we are excited to bring it to you on ClutchSportsIL.com. With Matt Harrington, I'm Joey Wright. And Matt, a lot of meaning in this game, a lot of meaning in this series. Dunlap could win the Mid-Illini Conference's regular season title with a win either tonight or in Morton on Saturday. But if Morton can sweep this series, and you've got to figure they have a decent chance at doing so, they win the Mid-Illini Conference tournament title. Talked with Dunlap coach Heather Cassidy before this one. She says it's our turn. Talked with Bob Becker before the game. He's ready to go, too. Going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun, Joey. And you mentioned that the high stakes. I mean, you're absolutely right. Morton trying to keep their streak alive. They have 6 Mid-Illini Conference championships in a row. It would be 7 if they could sweep at Dunlap, starting with a win tonight. Of course, Dunlap, this would be their very first Mid-Illini Conference title. So, like you mentioned, I mean, I don't think you could have any higher stakes here tonight on ClutchSportsIL.com.
Dunlap, as Matt said, seeking its first Mid-Illini Conference title ever. Morton seeking its 7th straight. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll take a look at the starting lineups and the key figures we will see tonight in just a moment. But first, Matt Harrington, how did we get here? The Morton Potters enter this one 10-2. The host Eagles are 11-1, so that's where we get the Morton needs to sweep the series to win it. They are, of course, down in the loss column, or ahead in the loss column by 1. They opened their season, Morton did, with a sweep of Canton. Then they beat Pekin. Then they lost to Pekin and Washington back-to-back. Morton's 2 losses coming in early February. Then they beat Washington, swept Metamora in a big series, swept East Peoria, swept Limestone, and here we are. For Dunlap, they swept Pekin. They beat Washington. And that was a little bit different because they lost some games because of COVID, but they got back on track. Won in triple overtime versus Metamora on February 13th. Then lost to Metamora in this building. Swept East Peoria, beat Washington in the game that we were supposed to cover, but, you know, everything got in the way there. Swept Limestone, swept Canton, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are indeed, Joey. And it's 2 teams that are streaking. Morton's won 7 in a row. After you mentioned they had a little blemish there where they lost to Pekin and Washington, and that ended a 64-game conference win streak that dated all the way back, I believe, to 2015 or 16. So it was a long time before they lost a conference game. And meanwhile, Dunlap just had that 1 loss to Metamora on February 16th, and that was the second half of a series where they won the triple overtime game against the Redbirds a few days before. So, I mean, you got 2 streaking teams are going head-to-head here tonight.
Talk about streaking teams, and to put that 64-game Mid-Illini Conference winning streak into perspective, if you played your cards right, you know, biologically and kind of depending on when you were born, right, you could have been a Morton High School student, gone through 4 years, walked the halls of Morton High School, and never seen the Potters lose a conference game. An incredible streak when you put it into perspective like that. And Pekin got over the hump. I think that kind of sent Morton not tumbling, but kind of had them reeling a little bit in the middle portion of the year.
Yeah, and we talked with head coach Bob Becker before the game, and he was telling us just at the start of the year that he didn't really feel like they were connected as a team, and it's hard to be connected when you have to be thrown into the start of the season and in the middle of February, and with everything going on with COVID, you didn't know if we were going to have a season or not. And he said that he's seen a tremendous growth within his team the past few weeks. They've been able to figure out and, of course, now have 7 wins in a row. So they're finding their stride at the right time, and I think they've got a very tough matchup, though, here tonight with this Dunlap Eagles team.
A Dunlap Eagles team that, as we said, believes it's their turn. Had a brief conversation with Heather Cassidy before this one, Dunlap's head coach, and she's ready to go. This Dunlap team is ready to go. That 3 overtime win at Metamora, Clutch Sports Media was in the house that afternoon, February 13th. Game of the Year candidate, as this one is, and as some of the games we've done in the last week have been as well. But then Metamora got them, and we kind of thought Metamora was, at that point, the front runner for the Mid-Illini Conference regular season title. They had some struggles, got swept by Morton in what was a big series for the Potters. But since that loss to Metamora, Dunlap has been on it, bounced back, swept East Peoria, beat Washington, and then Limestone and Canton. So a very hot team as well, Dunlap is.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you mentioned those Washington wins too. You guys were out in Washington. I believe you and Larry were on the call for that game where the Redbirds went up 21-0 on Washington, and that was really the key that propelled them to victory in that game and in that series. And I think they realized that, hey, we got to play better than we did against Metamora, where they lost by quite a bit, if I'm not mistaken. So they've figured a way to turn things around here, and now they've still got a chance here to clinch this Mid-Illini Conference Championship here tonight.
We'll see if they can do that. Coming up after this, the national anthem upon us. We'll take a break. Mid-Illini Conference basketball back on CSM after this. Clutch Sports Media live from Dunlap, Illinois tonight. The Mid-Illini Conference regular season championship is on the line. The Morton Potters and the Dunlap Eagles coming up next. Joey Wright alongside Matt Harrington. Matt, we talked about at the top of the show the matchup. It's time to meet the key players who will make it up. We will start with the lineup for the visiting Morton Potters, who enter this one 10-2, both overall and in the Mid-Illini Conference. They are coached by Bob Becker in his 22nd season. Two freshmen in the lineup for Morton. They are Addison Engel and Gracie Junis, number 4 and 11 respectively. They are joined in the lineup by 2 juniors and 1 senior. The juniors Maggie Hobson and Katie Krupa. Krupa, their leading scorer entering this one. The Harvard University commit, can put up a lot of points. The PJ Star All-Area first teamer a year ago. Hobson, Krupa, Engel, and Junis are joined by Raquel Franks, the lone senior for Morton. She is number 11.
And you mentioned Maggie Hobson, Joey, too. She was injured, so the past couple games she did not play, but she's back in the lineup tonight. She's going to be a big part of this Morton offense.
She certainly will be. And for the Dunlap Eagles being introduced on the floor right now, they are coached by Heather Cassidy and enter this one 11-1, both overall and in the Mid-Illini Conference. Sophia Remmel, the super sophomore, leads off the starting lineup. She's joined by fellow sophomore Bree Erickson, Remmel number 5, Erickson number 10, 5'6" and 5'8" respectively. Lily Sutter, big-time junior for this Dunlap Eagles team, played varsity last season with her sister Elle. She's number 12, 5'11" she stands at. Gabby DeGalinardo and Tanaya Cummings round out the Dunlap lineup. 25 DeGalinardo and 32 Cummings. A senior is DeGalinardo and a junior is Cummings. We're underway. Morton has won the figurative tip-off. Of course, no IHSA basketball games this season, starting with a physical tip-off, so it's an inbound, and the Potters get us going. Potters in gray and the Eagles in white. And a quick steal there from Remmel. Matt, we'll see her both on the offensive side and the defensive side tonight.
We are indeed going to see her. She might be the most talented player on the floor tonight for sure.
She very well may be. Morton now to Maggie Hobson. Hobson, Morton's second leading scorer entering tonight. And it's Engel up top. Hobson missed a couple of games due to an injury recently, but she's back in the lineup tonight. Now it's Engel to Hobson. And Hobson looks and finds Junis. Junis to Engel, and those are 2 freshmen in this Morton lineup. We'll talk about the youth in this Morton program here in just a second. Engel with a nice fake, and Matt, Morton taking its time here early on.
Yeah, they're looking for that open look right there and couldn't get it, but I like the idea there for that Morton offense.
That was Frakes off the mark for Morton. 2 freshmen in the Morton lineup, as we mentioned, Engel and Junis. And it's a younger program than it has been in the past, Matt. I think that makes their season this year all the more impressive.
It does indeed, and that youth can sometimes be exactly what you need to have a good season. We've seen that so far this year from them.
First foul of the game against Morton, and that will go against Frakes, her first, team's first. Morton lost a lot from last season. Courtney Jones and company put together a great year. Undefeated until the state title game. Remmel a 3 on the way for Dunlap and in, and there's Sophia Remmel, who scored 35 against Pekin earlier this season. 3 on the board tonight, and Dunlap has the early lead.
She made that one look easy too with the defender right in front of her.
See if Morton can respond here. It's Engel and Frakes. Talked a lot about Morton, but this Dunlap team, up and down, just as talented. And now here's Hobson. Hobson wants a 3 of her own, off the mark. And a physical battle for the rebound. Going at it was Engel and DeGalinardo, and that'll be our second foul, second against Morton.
Well, how about that possession, though, by the Morton Potters? I believe they got 3 offensive rebounds. So the second chance opportunity is coming up big, although they couldn't cash in.
So here's Remmel. Remmel kicks to Sutter. Lily Sutter, a quick 3 on the way, a little too strong, and Morton will haul in the rebound. That's Maggie Hobson. So now Morton into offensive territory, and there's Remmel again. Nearly had another steal, but instead it's Engel laying it in, and Morton is on the board for the first time tonight.
Yeah, Engel, nice job to get past the defense there, and she was wide open under the hoop for the easy basket.
Remmel pulling up for 3. Think she had that one tipped. Morton will let it go out of bounds, so the referees will say no, it was not tipped. Just couldn't get the shot off Remmel, and there was good reason for that, Matt. The defense was right in her face.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that all night long because she's going to find a way to put points on the board.
Down low and hitting the floor, Engel, but she's fouled, and she's got 2 free throws coming up. So Engel will get to the line.
Yeah, that one's going to go on Sutter. A little bit too strong there defensively, but like you mentioned, 2 free throws coming up here for the freshman Engel.
Quiet in the gym as the first is on the way and a little too strong, and that's something we've dealt with all year, right?
Yep.
It's really quiet in these gyms with limited fans, and it gets quiet again there as we await the second free throw. And the last thing you want to do is distract the shooter, right?
Right.
It's a golf broadcast on Clutch Sports
That's
Media.
right.
Second on the way. And Engel hits it, so Morton ties us up at 3. If you're just joining us, that ties us up after, Matt, I would say a back and forth first 2.5 minutes. You know, both teams have had some looks. Morton converted on a layup and a free throw there, and then Dunlap on a 3-pointer from Remmel earlier, but both teams still kind of feeling each other out.
Yeah, and you saw that last play there too, Dunlap, and just trying to be a little bit too aggressive and fast-paced on the offensive side. And you saw Lily Sutter just telling her teammates, hey, let's slow it down a little bit. Now they'll go back on defense here.
Sutter, a leader for this Dunlap team, and it's going to be tipped out of bounds. It'll stay with Morton. Head coaches Bob Becker and Heather Cassidy called out plays, respectively, for Morton and Dunlap. Engel to inbound, and she is going to get it in. But a foul before the inbound, and that inbound pass went to Krupa.
Yeah, Krupa was wide open there, too. And they'll have to do it again as we'll have Engel under the hoop for the inbounds pass here.
So Engel to inbound, and it goes to Hobson. Krupa, Morton's leading scorer, has been held quiet tonight, as have a lot of key players early on for both sides. Fed over to Engel, and Engel wants to attack, and she lays it up and in. I believe, Matt, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's all 5 Morton points.
That's correct.
For Engel.
Yep, you're absolutely right. She has looked really good here offensively, and of course we talked about it, just a freshman too.
Remmel, the sophomore, fouled for Dunlap. And we'll see what we have here. A mask timeout coming up. after which I believe Remmel will have 3 free throws.
Yeah, I was going to say, you see the refs discussing there at center court about the foul, and I'm sure we'll get some clarification here in just a moment, but like you mentioned, I believe we are going to have that mass timeout as we're under 5 minutes to play in this first quarter.
Comes with 4:36 left, as you see at the bottom of your screen. And
I think it's a technical foul, Joey.
It
My guess is that something was said to the referee, and because you saw him make the technical foul signal, but I wasn't sure if maybe he got that mixed up with a timeout. But
yeah, that was the same thing I thought. It does look like technical free throws for Remmel here. Shoots 3 and hits 2 of them, pardon me.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because you see head coach Bob Becker, and he's getting pulled away by one of the assistant coaches, and obviously he doesn't like the call, and she's going to get 3 more free throws here because of the shooting foul as well. So that's a bad break for the Morton Potters for sure.
Yeah, the 4th free throw, the 3rd of which falls. And the 5th is in as well. So I believe, those were, we'll sort this out for you. Those 5 free throws, of course, the 3 and the technical foul, and we're not quite sure who the technical was assessed on. Early on in that, I thought they were going to go into the mass timeout.
That's what I thought, too, and I think we're going to get it right now.
How about that? A wild sequence here early on in Dunlap. Sophia Remmel knocks in a couple at the charity stripe.
Just a weird start to the game, though, Joey. I mean, but if you're Dunlap, you knock down 4 of those free throws, and you've got a 2-point advantage. So this is where you start to think about how can we move from here and find ways to get more points going, because they haven't shot the ball particularly well. They had the big 3, of course, from Remmel to open the offense. But, I mean, those are free points, and they cashed in 4 out of the 5 times at the line. So,
well, how about this, Matt? A little bit of an anomaly. As you see at the bottom of your screen, looking at our score, 7 for Dunlap, 5 for Morton. That's 7 points from Dunlap's Sophia Remmel and 5 points for Addison Engel of Morton. So we've seen 13 points, 12 points that would be total in the game, and 2 players have scored them all.
And a sophomore and a freshman, too. It's not the upperclassmen, it's the underclassmen putting on a show so far.
It's the kids of America going at it in Central Illinois tonight. 3 on the way for Dunlap is off. And the rebound hauled in by Sutter. Sutter will go up, and she'll change that anomaly. Gets herself on the board and gives Dunlap a 4-point lead.
Nice job getting that offensive rebound. Puts it up for the 2 easy points. Now the lead's grown a little bit larger here for these Dunlap Eagles.
Hobson missed on the 3, and the rebound corralled by Paige Griffin. Griffin fresh into the game for Morton. She is a junior. And Hobson wants another 3. That 3 meets the same fate.
Coach Bob Becker was telling us we're going to see a lot of Hobson shooting the 3 ball. Unfortunately, just couldn't connect there for her.
Now the Dunlap offense tries to get things kick-started. They'll go down loaded to Gallinardo, and Gabby DeGallinardo was defended well. Morton will push it here. Now they'll slow it down a bit. It's Hobson. Hobson to Engel, and back to Hobson. Hobson passes on the 3, but Engel will take it. Can't find that one, and the rebound corralled by Sutter. Lily Sutter will push it. Can she go coast to coast? She won't try it. She'll stop and find Remmel. Remmel wants a 3. And another missed 3. We've seen a couple in a row now, spanning both sides. Sutter to Tanaya Cummings, and Cummings lost that. But I want to talk about Tanaya Cummings real quick. Matt, Dunlap, the junior. She was big in the Metamora game, and she's been big in the couple of Dunlap games we've seen this season, but especially late in the Dunlap, or in the Metamora game, I should say, she stepped up and really kind of keyed the Eagles to that win.
She did indeed, and you see why is she's one of the starters. She's on the bench now getting some rest, but I think we could see Tanaya Cummings get the ball a lot down the stretch here for these Dunlap Eagles, especially if we stay in a close game like we are now.
She is replaced by Julie Sullenberger, the freshman, the first off the bench for the Eagles tonight. Just over 5 minutes into the first quarter. Nearly trouble there. Griffin couldn't corral the pass, but gets a couple steps in and misses the 2. And now a football pass to Remmel. Remmel wants it. She's got it, and Dunlap is the first to double digits.
Boy, you mentioned it. That football pass from Lily Sutter, I think might want to check in and see if the football team has a opening spot here in a couple weeks.
Thrower under center, right? Here's
That's
Remmel
right.
again. And that'll kick out of bounds. IHSA football starting up March 19th, opening night. Excited to have a full couple of weeks of football for you on ClutchSportsIL.com.
It'll be different this year, of course, being in the spring, so I'm excited to see if that has any impact at all. But, yeah, nonetheless, I'm very excited to get the high school football season going as well.
As am I, and the whole Clutch Sports Media team as well. If the current weather trends continue, it's going to be a beautiful spring for football. Join us on Fridays this spring. Did I say beautiful fall for football, or did I say beautiful spring?
I think you said spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't keep them straight, right?
That's right. I mean, one week it's 10 below zero, the next it's 50 above. So welcome to the Midwest.
And Dunlap soccer getting started on Tuesday, I believe, as Dunlap AD Katie Cazalet was telling us. Here's Dunlap and DeGalinardo off the mark. Matt, both teams a bit cold from the field here in the early going.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that, Joey. The points have been hard to come by so far, and we'll see if that trend continues. Ball movement's been really good. It's just been about cashing in. Neither team has really done a whole lot of that so far.
Krupa for Morton over to Raquel Frakes. And Frakes to Krupa, and Krupa is on the board. Morton's leading scorer has her first points of the evening.
You see why she's committed to Harvard with plays like that. I mean, she can find ways to make it look easy under the hoop, and nice job to finish for the easy bucket.
Sutter pulling up for Dunlap and hits it. A deep three, for Sutter. And she's on the board.
It's a big bucket there for Sutter and extends that lead to 7. They've doubled them up here, largest lead of the game.
See how Morton responds. Kick out to Engel, and Engel up top to Krupa. She has a 3 on the way, and that's a little too strong. Rather than let it go out of bounds, Remmel says we'll play it. Hand off to Sutter. Now over to Sollenberger. Hobson there on defense, and back to Sollenberger. Swimming through traffic is Lauren Field, number 3 for Dunlap. She has been in for a moment. I've not mentioned her yet. It's Sollenberger. Matt, do you think Dunlap's going to hold for the last shot here?
I do think that, Joey. Yeah, they've been holding on to it for a solid 20, 25 seconds, and that's about how much time is left in the quarter. So unless they get a wide open look, I would expect them to hold it here to close out the quarter.
See the clock at the bottom of your screen. It's Remmel. And Remmel to Sutter, just north of 10 seconds. Both benches showing good energy. Here's Sutter. Sutter to DeGalinardo, her 3 off the mark. Rebound for Morton, and a shot at the buzzer from Engel will fall just short, and that is how the first quarter will end. A good one in Dunlap with the Eagles over the Potters, 14-7.
I think that's about as good of a quarter as you could ask for these Dunlap Eagles. And I mean, if you're Morton, you have to think you're not very far away from getting back into this game, just down 7, but I mean, we talked about those free throws. I mean, they picked up 4 of their points at the line. You take that away, it's a one-possession game. So, I mean, Morton's right there. They just have not been able to really get anything to fall, especially from behind the arc. They've struggled with that here early on. But, you know, they're a good team, and so is Dunlap, obviously. You see why they're winning by 7 after 1. So, a lot of game left here. But I think Morton is more than still in this game.
I agree. And if you're just joining us, the defining play of the game so far, Matt was alluding to it just a moment ago, was Sophia Remmel fouled on the three-point attempt about halfway through the first quarter, pardon me, and she was fouled, had 3 free throws from that, and then a technical foul just after that, knocked in 4 free throws total when it was all said and done, and that took it was a 5-3 game favoring Morton at that point, right? And it swung it to the 7-5 lead for Dunlap, and Dunlap has led ever since.
Those are the little momentum swings right there that happens, and we'll see if Morton can find themselves a way to get back in this thing. Again, only down 7, so a lot of time left.
Krupa the rebound. 5 total free throws Remmel had at the line, made 4 of them. We'll see if Morton can get back on the board. It's first possession of the quarter. It's Hobson, and Hobson over to Krupa. Now to Engel. Engel opened up with 5 points early on for the Potters, and the Lady Potters travel there. Krupa a little quick to take it to the rack.
Ball movement was good there from the Potters on that possession, and they just couldn't find that open look, and Krupa was going to try and drive inside and get the easy bucket, but again, just a mental mistake there from Krupa, and it's one that Morton would certainly like to have back.
Sullenberger runs the point for Dunlap here. Field will look and find Chandler Fassett. Fassett fresh into the game. Haven't called her name much this season. We'll see what she can do off the bench. Fassett, the 6'1 junior, and a three coming from Lauren Field. A little bit off the mark, and the rebound to Morton, and Krupa will run it. The Harvard commit. Drives through traffic, and a foul on the floor, so no free throws coming up. Third foul against Dunlap. Morton has 5, so we're still just a little bit away from the bonus.
We are indeed, and nice job, though, by Krupa to draw the foul. Not a shooting foul, of course, on the floor, but still give your team an opportunity to reset and get something going here on offense. They've been held off the scoreboard for quite a while now, so see what Morton can get going here on offense.
Sutter is back in for Dunlap, and Remmel is out. And while we have just a little break in the action, I want to thank the rest of our Clutch Sports Media team tonight. John Michael is on our game camera, and Josh Schwab making his directorial debut. He is at the controls of our computer tonight. Appreciate John and Josh being out here. Morton to inbound, and we're back underway. Krupa firing over to Hobson, but Sutter got in, tipped that pass, and she is the last one to touch it, so it will stay with the Lady Potters.
We talked about Sutter a little bit in the open, Joey, and even defensively, we've seen what she can do on offense, and scoring, it makes it look easy, and even there defensively getting a hand on it, at least for Dunlap. Not their possession, but you have to like the play of Lily Sutter so far on defense.
You go back to the 3 overtime win against Metamora. Sophia Remmel and Lily Sutter right there, 1A, 1B for the Eagles in that one. But I think it was Lily Sutter's defensive efforts in that one that spurred them to that win. And, you know, oftentimes you don't get those defensive kind of specialty stats doing these high school games. But I would have loved to see how many rebounds, steals, etc. that she came away with in that one. It was a great game as Sullenberger finds Sutter.
And you mentioned the rebounds, too. She's averaging 7.5 rebounds per game. So, and courtesy Adam Duvall from the Journal-Star for that statistic.
Adam Duvall helping us out a lot. One of the great preps reporters, not only in the area, but in the state as well. Often a good source for information. And a timeout called by Dunlap here, just north of 6 minutes left to play in the quarter. And, Matt, probably a good timeout for Dunlap. I realize we're 2 minutes into the quarter and we've not seen a score from either side.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Joey, and I like the decision by head coach Heather Cassidy to take that timeout. You could hear the round of applause from the Morton bench, and I've liked what I've seen from them defensively here in the second quarter and made it hard for Dunlap to get anything going offensively, so I like the decision for the timeout. Chance to catch your breath a little bit here and get ready to go again.
Taking a look at some scoring leaders, 5 points for Morton's Addison Engel, 7 points for Sophia Remmel for Dunlap, and another 5 points for Lily Sutter.
We'll get those updated at halftime, too, for you, so we have a up-to-date count. I'm trying to keep score here, but it's hard when you got so much going on. So that may not entirely be accurate, but doing my best.
Doing our best, and good to have Matt with us tonight. Now a couple games you've called for us this season. Good to have you out here. 3 on the way from Remmel, just off the mark, and we will get you those updated tallies at halftime. Morton travels, and that'll bring in 2 substitutions for Dunlap. It's DeGalinardo and Cummings back into the game.
Yeah, we talked about Cummings right as she came to the bench the last time, and you were mentioning how important she is to this team, and we'll see if they decide to go to her on a couple of possessions here.
Sutter's 3 is in, and Lily Sutter makes it a 10-point game.
That's a big bucket right there for Dunlap, extending that lead now to 10. First time all game that's been done double digits.
Krupa, a nice spin and a nice score, so both teams now trading baskets. And, Matt, you talked about Cummings. We'll hold that thought as and one play. How about that from Remmel? How did that go in?
I have no idea, Joey. I thought that was just a chuck and a prayer to get that one to fall. That was impressive stuff right there from Remmel.
Sophia Remmel now with at least 9 points this evening. Quiet for the free throw, pardon me, and knocks that in. So Remmel creates a spark there, an acrobatic play. And I was going to talk about how Tania Cummings is kind of a quiet scorer, nice piece for this Dunlap team. Watch for her to get hot in the low post. Sophia Remmel with a loud statement down there in the low post.
Yes, indeed. And right there on that last possession, Joey, just a mishandle by Frakes. And Morton's had a little trouble with just the simple mental things the last couple possessions. So we'll see if they can turn things around. But it's hard to when you've got all sorts of scores out there on the floor right now for these Dunlap Eagles.
Gallinardo back to Sutter for Dunlap. Matt, would you say Dunlap's played a little bit of a tighter first half here as we get another score from Remmel?
Yeah. I think they've found out where they're comfortable offensively, getting those open looks, and you're seeing it right now. They look really strong, and you see why they're first in the Mid-Illini Conference.
Hobson will pass on the three. It is a 13-point lead, as you see at the bottom of your screen, the largest it has been all evening, and down low and a foul. Frakes will get two at the line for Morton. So, Matt, maybe this represents, I believe they called that on the floor. My apologies. Nevertheless, they get the inbound pass. This might represent an opportunity for Morton to kind of get it going as Fassett comes in for Cummings for Dunlap.
Certainly. You know, you feel this lead is growing. It's up to 12 now, and these are where you start to figure out how to get something going on offense and moving the ball quickly here and see what they do. Three
on the way for Morton. Count it. Saying hello is Maggie Hobson, and that's a big three, a big response for Morton. See what Dunlap has in store. It's a 10-point game again.
Big three indeed by Hobson, and see why she's one of the better three-point shooters back in the lineup here this evening and cuts that deficit down to 10.
Now down low, and blocked was DeGallinardo. Krupa defending, and a foul called there. Looks like they'll call that on the floor. But that ought to be a moot point. It's a 1-and-1 situation.
Yeah, I don't think Krupa liked the call all that much, but defensively it was the right foul to take, I think, because you see her big frame, one of the taller players on this team, and now we'll get some free throws here for these Dunlap Eagles.
Free throws coming for DeGallinardo, and I can tell you, looking right at it, we'll have our mask time out so we can actually talk. We don't have to worry about getting quiet as a mouse. The call was correct. I was looking right down at it. There was contact. Krupa was trying to go up straight, but the contact was initiated, I believe, by DeGallinardo. She did a good job of seeking it out and creates two free throws at the stripe. But that three from Hobson, that feels like a defining play here in the first half.
It does. It was one of those possessions where you felt like Morton just had to get something going and get some points on the board, and Hobson was wide open, and she knocked it down for the bucket. And if I'm not mistaken, that's our first 3 points of the game as well. So I'd like to see her get a little bit more involved in this Morton offense here to close out this second quarter and into the second half as well. So we'll see what they can do, but Hobson is going to be a big piece if Morton wants to come back and win this game.
She's taken a couple of threes tonight, and I believe that was the first one that she knocked in. Now free throws coming up for DeGallinardo, at least one. 1-and-1 situation. The foul was called on the floor. Morton has 7 fouls. Dunlap has 4. First free throw on the way, and in. We'll get one more. Back to an 11-point game.
Hey, talk about the silence, though. I mean, you can hear a pin drop in here.
And the second one falls. DeGallinardo knocks it through. So it's 24-12 now our score.
Again, look, Joey, for Morton to be ultra aggressive on these next few possessions. That deficit is high again, and boom, there's another one.
Hobson, her second 3 in a row, and it is back to single digits as Hobson steps up. So now here is Sutter. We'll see, these teams have traded baskets the last couple of times. DeGallinardo now kicks it up top to Remmel, and Remmel's high pass down low to Fassett. Airmail.
That's what Morton needs, is they need stops, and they force the turnover there and just thrown out of bounds by the Dunlap Eagles. And for Morton, you got to take advantage here. Down in this game, down by 9, you cut it to 9 with a big 3 again from Hobson, but this is where you need to cash in to try and cut down this deficit before we get to halftime.
Potters are hot. They've scored their last 2 trips down the floor in the way of 2 3-pointers from Maggie Hobson. Down low is Krupa turning around, and she is blocked by Fassett. Chandler Fassett the big block, and Remmel will run it for Dunlap. Morton finds Sutter, and Sutter back to Remmel. Nice move. Better defense, and Fassett finds Sutter. Now it's to Gillinardo, to the corner, and Field. And this Morton defense stepping up a little bit, Matt.
They are. You feel a little bit more of a sense of urgency here from them, and they know they need to start coming up with some more stops, as Dunlap had a few buckets in a row before this.
Field up top, looking for Remmel. Remmel looked for the baseline, but she was cut off well. Dunlap having a hard time finding anything here. Sutter tries to create, and a foul on the floor on the rebound. That'll go against Dunlap, ought to be the 5th against the Eagles.
That was the best defensive possession of the game so far right there, Joey, by these Morton Potters, and you see them force, I believe that was Remmel with the shot, just had to chuck it up, really. I mean, that's how good and that defense was, and I'd like to see more of that for sure.
As the Morton faithful would as well. Peyton Haley is in for Dunlap, and Chandler Fassett heads towards the bench. Fassett played good minutes there, keyed by the nice block. Hobson passes on the 3 and finds Paige Griffin. It's back to Hobson. She's guarded by Remmel. Under 2 minutes to play in the half. Floats one up. And they'll call a jump ball there. Thought they were going to. Was looking to see if it might have been a foul, but it will stay with Dunlap. First jump ball we've seen tonight.
It is the first jump ball, and if you're watching, you can probably see head coach Heather Cassidy telling her players, hey, get your hands up in front of their faces, and that's how Dunlap's been able to get a lot of their defensive stops, just being ultra aggressive on defense.
Frakes to Hobson, back to Frakes. Field the closest defender. Matt, do you think Morton goes for the 3 here, or do you think, well, they fire it down low, as I say that, to Frakes, but creates an open 3, and
man,
they answer my question with a 3, Maggie Hobson.
She's been on fire from behind the arc now. She's finding her stride here for Morton.
Gillinardo, 2 free throws coming up. She has done a great job of getting to the stripe.
She has, and she'll get another couple opportunities here like you mentioned, and this will be a chance to extend the lead even further.
Quiet for the first, it's on the way, and Gillinardo knocks in her first. Want to apologize, had been saying DeGallinardo for first portion of tonight's game, and quiet for the free throw on the way and in, and for the first portion of tonight's game, and I think every Dunlap game we've ever done. So want to correct that. It is Gillinardo. Larry Larson on the assist there, and PA announcer, of course, confirms. Always got to listen to the PA guy.
Oh, absolutely. he knows what he's doing, that's for sure.
How about that finish? Frakes steps up. Almost an alley-oop sort of play.
You can see right now, Joey, though, that look at the Morton bench. Head coach Bob Becker and the rest of the bench, they are energized, and this is what he was talking about. The bench feeds onto the players, and you're seeing that right now.
A couple of minutes ago, the deficit was 13. Now the Lady Potters' deficit is 6. Kicked out to Sutter. Sutter guarded by Frakes, and as Matt pointed out, that bench on their feet, getting loud, making noise. You got to create your own energy in this 2021 season. They're doing that right now. Field holds for Dunlap, and Matt, will Dunlap hold for the final shot?
I think they will, Joey. They did this to close out the first quarter, and we're likely to see that here for the second. So they would certainly like to extend their lead back up to 8 or maybe 9 here before we go into halftime. But this is a big possession defensively for Morton, and there's a foul called against them right there.
That will go against Engel, I believe. Ought to be the 9th foul for the Potters this half, and it is, and that is against Engel. Her 4th. And that foul, I don't think that's a bad foul. You kind of force Dunlap's hand here, force him in the 1-and-1. Field to the line. The first is on the way and off. So it turns out to be a good foul, but we get another one right there on the rebound. That will also go against Morton. That'll go against Krupa. And now the double bonus for Dunlap, so it's panned out in favor of the Eagles.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, that is the second foul on Katie Krupa as well. She had that one earlier, and that'll be something to keep an eye on here. She's got to be careful.
DiGiuliardo at the line and knocks in the first. So Dunlap will get at least 1 point out of this sequence. And we'll await the second free throw to see how the half will end. On the way, and that is in as well. What does Morton draw up in just over 10 seconds?
I think you just got to find an open look, anything to at least try and get some points on the board, whether it's 2 or 3, Joey.
Athletic pass into Krupa. Krupa trying to run and gun, and she's fouled.
That's the second or third time, Joey, that Krupa's driven to the lane and drawn a foul. And she's a good free throw shooter, too. So I like the idea. Just push the floor and try and get something up, draw the foul. Now you can try and get the free throw points here.
First is in.
Pretty sure everybody in the the whole building could hear me there.
It is so hard to do these free throws.
Yeah.
Everyone goes quiet. Similar there as Krupa knocks it in. We'll see what Dunlap draws up. Just under 7 to play. Pass was tipped. Field gets it. Field to Remmel. 2-1. Shot at the buzzer. Just off the mark. Matt, that was probably the best shot Dunlap could have hoped for.
Yeah, and we saw Remmel with an unreal play earlier where she drew the N1. But, I mean, overall, I thought that was just a much better quarter, Joey, by these Morton Potters. And they're still down by 6 here. I believe it was 14-7 after the first. So, but, you know, even though they're still down by 6, I think they've been a lot more energized on the bench. You seem to sense that they figured it out a little bit here in this second quarter, first half. But I like the way they've been playing so far, despite the fact they're being down.
Yeah, Morton battled back, you know, the adversity. They were down by as many as 13, cut it to 6, and then it is still 6 here as we enter the halftime break. We will take a break here in just a second, Matt, but first, any final takeaways as we do take the break for halftime?
Well, I think just, you know, kind of like I mentioned, Joey, is Morton's there. You just feel like they haven't quite figured it out yet, but they're making progress. I thought the first quarter, Dunlap was really controlling the floor, and even the first half of that second quarter, Morton seemed to struggle a little bit on defense, but I like the way they've been playing, and part of that is because of the bench. You mentioned in this COVID season they kind of have to create their own energy. I think they've found a way to do that, and if they can keep that up in the second half, I think they've got a chance to come back in this game for sure.
They certainly do. Morton led early, but since then it has been mostly Dunlap, but Morton's fighting back. We will take a break for halftime. We'll kill our mic in just a second because we don't know if Morton's going to win or Dunlap's going to win, but copyright strikes always win, right? We don't know
that's right.
We don't know what Morton's got planned in the audio department here. So we'll step aside for halftime. You've got the countdown to the second half on the bottom of your screen. 8.5 minutes and ticking. We'll get updated scores, stats, and more. Back in a couple minutes. You're watching Mid-Illini Conference Basketball on ClutchSportsIL.com. from Dunlap High School in Dunlap, Illinois. Clutch Sports Media on the scene with you. The Mid-Illini Conference regular season title is on the line. Dunlap could clinch it with a win tonight over Morton, and they are in the driver's seat as we start the second half, 28-22. Favoring Dunlap. Looks like we're going to get the second half underway a little bit early. Joey Wright, Matt Harrington in with you. Josh Schwab and John Michael, the other two members of our team. Dunlap starting with possession. The first such possession of the half. We'll get you updated scores and stats more accurately here in just a moment. But first, it's Dunlap starting off the second half with Cummings, and Cummings back to Sutter. A lot of action that side of the floor as Remmel looks and finds Cummings. A little too strong, and Morton hauls in the rebound. It'll be Frakes taking it up.
You saw Cummings there, Joe. You talked about her. Open look, unfortunately for her, just can't finish. And a little bit too much on the pass from Raquel Frakes.
So that gives Dunlap its second possession of the half. And Matt, as Dunlap takes it up, why don't you get us up to speed on our scoring leaders this evening?
Yeah, Sophia Remmel has 14 points right now, Joey, for Dunlap, and nobody else has double figures. Lily Sutter has 9 points, but she is the leader, Sophia Remmel, with 14. And then at the other end, it's been the Maggie Hobson show. She's got 9 points to lead the Morton Potters, all on three-pointers. So three three-pointers for her, and she is the leading scorer right now for Morton.
Morton shot blocked there. Hobson had it blocked, Engel the rebound, and Hobson gets it back. Saw a tweet at halftime. The technical foul in the first half was assessed to Katie Krupa as Frakes finds the first basket of the second half for either side. Krupa got called for the technical foul early. We weren't quite sure who that was on, and a big three there for Remmel. Dunlap answers the call.
Big three indeed, 17 points for her, and you mentioned Krupa with that technical foul. She's up to 3, and she's the only player in this game that has more 3 or more fouls, so that'll be something to keep an eye on later in this game, especially if it stays close like it is.
Frakes floats one up, too strong. Rebound Krupa, nearly the and one, and Krupa, just as we talked about her and her foul situation, she is fouled, and to the line she'll go.
Nice job to grab the board there for Katie Krupa. Now she'll go to the line for 2 to cut into this deficit.
Foul called on DiGianardo, her second, and the free throw in and out for Krupa. 2 substitutions coming in. First one for Dunlap is Julie Sullenberger. She is back in, and Paige Griffin is back in for Morton. Looks like Cummings and Engel to the bench respectively, and the free throw falls for Krupa.
And Joey, one other thing that I wanted to point out that I forgot, it was Dunlap, they're winning this game right now, but they've only had 3 scores. It's Sophia Remmel, Lily Sutter, and Gabby DiGianardo. So that's impressive that they're winning with only getting their scoring from 3 players.
Nearly had a 4th scorer right there, but Bree Erickson was a little off the mark. Erickson wants another 3, can't dial that one up. And the rebound corralled by Frakes. Bree Erickson started for Dunlap this evening, and of all of Dunlap's starters, that might be the name we've called the least. But she's played good minutes for the Eagles thus far in this one, and expect that to be a name you hear more of in the second half. Morton kicking it out, and a 3 coming up from Hobson. Would have been her 4th of the evening, but kicked over the basket. There was a point, if you're just joining us, Matt, in the second quarter, she stepped up and she had a torrid stretch.
Yeah, she did indeed, and she made 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. And that was really what propelled Morton to coming back from that 13-point deficit. They've still got some work to do here. It's down to 6, but you're going to have to keep an eye on Maggie Hobson if you're the Dunlap defense for sure.
And if you are just joining us, Morton led early. Dunlap off on the 3 there. They led early, but then Dunlap came storming back. The Dunlap lead swelled to as many as 13. Morton has not whittled it beyond 6 since. That doesn't change there. And the rebound, Frakes kicks to Krupa, and Krupa lays it up and does change that. It's a 4-point game.
They totally lost Katie Krupa there in the paint, Joey, and she made them pay with that easy bucket.
DiGianardo to the corner. See how Morton responds, or Dunlap, pardon me. It has not been less than 6, as I mentioned, in quite a while, and 1 for Sutter. It's back to a 6-point game, could be more after Sutter goes to the stripe.
Great job there by Sutter. And you see the celebration after. She's pumped up about that one. And now she'll have a chance to convert the and one here as we get a couple of substitutions. Actually, I believe we're going to get our mass timeout. Man, that went quick.
It did. A quick 3:30. And we are nearing the halfway point of quarter number 3. And it is still right where we started, a 6-point game. We've seen an equal amount of points from both sides, 6.
Yeah, we have indeed. And again, this has been a fast-paced game. The ball's moving quick, and teams are still looking for those open lanes. But I have to say, Morton has found ways to get the open players. I mean, Maggie Hobson has had some wide-open shots in this third quarter so far. And unfortunately for her, hasn't been able to stop or bury anything, rather. But, you know, if they can find a way to get her going like we saw in that first half, I think there's a very good chance that Morton comes back in this game.
I would agree with that. It's Sutter at the line could make it a 7-point game. That free throw on the way and in does just that. So now Morton will try to respond. It's Engel. Engel to Griffin and back to Engel. Frakes back to Engel, and Engel was a name we called a lot early. Has not scored since the first quarter, but was a big part of that first quarter, and a foul there called as Krupa found Griffin. That'll be the 3rd total foul of the quarter, and the 2nd against Dunlap, and the 1st on Lauren Field.
And Krupa's found a way to draw a lot of fouls in this game on both ends of the floor, and so Morton gets another chance here to cut into this deficit a little bit more now, up to 7.
Frakes to Hobson. Hobson had a little trouble with it, and Field is right there. Field has been big on the perimeter defensively this evening, and the loose rebound corralled by DiGianardo. So Dunlap will run and gun, and a nice find to Field. Field looks for Sullenberger. She has a 3 on the way that is just off the mark. And Morton tries to cut into the deficit again. 3 on the way from Hobson, just short. Loose rebound, and it's corralled by Engel. Engel brings it in. Krupa to Frakes. And this is a big second chance situation for Morton.
It is indeed, and they're taking their time and setting up something on offense as you see the Paige Griffin holding on to it here for Morton.
Krupa the pass to Frakes. Frakes nearly lost it, nearly was not ready for it. Krupa pulling up for a free throw. Caught nothing in an attempt to keep it in. A good effort, a valiant effort, one would say, but out of bounds, and Dunlap takes over.
Feels like a wasted possession, though, Joey, for Morton. And, you know, they're down in this game, not by a ton by any means, but those are the possessions, you know, when you get the offensive rebound that you'd like to cash in. And certainly they'd like to have that one back for sure.
Kaylin Cowley in for the first time this evening for Morton. Krupa to the bench. Field to DiGianardo. Cowley right there as we find Remmel. And here's Sutter. Sutter versus Engel. Sutter tries to spin. Sullenberger wants the lane, doesn't quite have it. And Fields nearly did, out of bounds. DiGianardo tried to keep it in, but couldn't quite do it. Not a lot she could have done there. Frakes will come out for Morton. And they'll bring in a couple. Sedona McCartney is in, and Gracie Junis, who started for the Potters, in as well.
It's a much-needed stop, though, Joey, from Morton there on the defensive end. And, again, we've talked about the open looks that they've been able to get, and Hobson in particular, of course, she's out there on the floor right now for Morton, and we'll see if they decide to go back to her. Keep an eye on her, for sure.
It's McCartney up top. She's in trouble. And Cowley kicks. Now it goes back to McCartney. She's in trouble again. Morton facing that double team. It's Cowley. Cowley to the corner and Engel. Engel tripped up and a foul called, and that'll go against Sullenberger. Matt, the Morton lineup right now looks a little bit different. We have not seen this 5 on the floor together at one time, and a lot of these players we haven't seen at all tonight.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kaylin Cowley. She played a couple minutes actually in the first quarter, but she was only out there for not that long of a time, and we'll see her more. Great play defensively.
And here's Erickson. Remmel laying it up. And a 9-point game.
This is a chance, Joey, for Dunlap to really build this lead. They've been good on the defensive end, and excellent job at the other side by Remmel to bury it for the easy bucket.
Callie back to Hobson to Engel. Engel had nowhere to go. Still in trouble. Now it's Callie. Callie back to Engel. Mentioned Engel. She scored a lot in the first quarter. Hasn't done a whole lot in that department since. And it's Hobson, who knocked in several big threes in the second. Say it every game, no shot clock in the IHSA. We'll see a shot finally there from Engel, and tossing it up is Callie. Good defense there, and Dunlap forces the miss. And Dunlap changing paces here. That'll rim out. Rebound, and DiGianardo up and in. Back to double digits.
Dunlap seems like they've just got a whole lot more energy right now than Morton, and you're seeing it on the defensive side, not getting Morton anything. Or letting Morton get any open looks.
Callie to Engel. Engel to McCartney. McCartney traveled, and that's good defense from Lily Sutter.
It is indeed. We've seen her offensively in this game, and we touched on some of the plays that she's been able to make on the defensive side there too. And on a travel for Morton, and down by 11. This is getting similar to where we were in the first quarter.
And it's kind of similar to how the last two quarters have ended. Dunlap has a chance to hold for the last shot. Do you think they will?
I don't think so, and they're going to shoot it right here, and they get the points, Joey. I mean, it's 13 again. Here we are, just like we were in the first quarter. Now, if you're Morton, you kind of have to feel a sense of desperation here.
It's like they hear me. Every time I ask you a question, someone does something to answer it. Morton looks like they will hold for the last shot unless they can get anything good before the buzzer. Inside of 7 seconds, it's Frakes taking it in. Frakes dishing and finding an open Junis, and Junis is fouled. It won't in the quarter, Matt, but it'll get close to doing so. The 2 free throws from Junis.
It will, and good foul. I like that foul, and prevents them from getting the easy 2. They'll have to make them earn it now.
Second foul against Sutter, and first free throw on the way. It falls through. 12-point game. Dunlap's lead, now at 12, did not grow beyond 13. It's been at 13 a couple of times tonight. Second is on the way. That falls through as well. 11-point game. What does Dunlap have in store for the end of this? What does Morton have in store? It's tossed up, and the buzzer sounds. That'll end the third. Just like that, nearly a big play for the Potters. That was Hobson that nearly got the steal and score. Saw one of those in Pekin earlier this season.
We did, and for Hobson, I mean, that's one of those things where you'd like to have seen her finish that, of course, but unfortunately they just can't finish it. And now Morton's down, Morton is down. Almost got mixed up there with the scoreboard, but Morton down 11, and feels like, Joey, if that bucket goes in from Hobson, it's exactly the momentum shift that you need for these Morton Potters. But still 8 minutes to go. I mean, this game is nowhere near over, but that was about as strong of a third quarter as you could have asked for from the Dunlap Eagles.
Both teams came out of the gates kind of trading buckets. We saw 6 points quick before our first mask timeout, and then Dunlap pulled away a little bit. And if they could have gotten, talking about Morton, that last steal and score from Hobson, that's kind of a mental thing, isn't it? You know, you go down 9 as opposed to 11. Entering the fourth, you're on that same plane. It's not double digits. I don't want to oversell it because I think they'll be fine either way here, but that would have been, as you said, big for the kind of the feel of the game.
Yeah, it would have, and we've kind of talked about some of the opportunities that Morton has had tonight, and you know, they have just, I mean, they're getting the opportunities, certainly in the open looks. We've seen Hobson have quite a few, and I believe we're going to restart it here. Not sure what's going on here exactly.
That was a clock miscue to start the.
There we go.
And I wasn't paying attention to the clock. You can rewind your browser a little bit and find out what happened for yourself there.
We had a clock miscue at Peoria High last week as well.
We did, and that was a glaring error. Get into that in a second, but it's Morton opening up the fourth quarter strong. It's Junis.
That's exactly how you want to start this fourth quarter. Junis on the board, and much needed for Morton.
Now it's Erickson running the show for Dunlap here. It's back to a single-digit game. The Dunlap lead, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, standing at 9. If you're just joining us, it has been kind of around that 10-point mark, a little more, a little less at times. A lot of the way through the second, third, and early fourth quarter, but it has played a lot closer than that. A good fourth quarter in store. ClutchSportsIL.com or on YouTube. Tell your family, tell your friends. Dunlap trying to go back ahead by double digits. It's Erickson, who has been held pretty quiet in the scoring column tonight. Tries to facilitate, finds Sutter, who finds DeGilinardo.
How about Hobson on this defensive possession, Joey? She's been all over the floor. Forces a timeout for Dunlap, and that is much, much needed, I think, and you can start to feel a tide shifting just a little bit in favor of these Morton Potters as they've got the deficit down to 9 here early in this fourth quarter.
Two very well-coached programs. Heather Cassidy for Dunlap and Bob Becker, of course, for Morton now in his 22nd year. And when we talk about all of the success, of course, this Morton program has had, tough to fit into a quick timeout, multiple state championships, a 64-game conference winning streak that came to an end earlier this season. Dunlap chasing, of course, its first ever Mid-Illini Conference regular season title. Could clinch that tonight with a win. They're 6 minutes and 50 seconds away, but my point being, Matt, with such a well-coached Morton team and a team that has had all of the success they've had, they know how to play in these situations. They're going to be a tough out last 7 minutes here. Yeah,
this is where that experience factor comes in, Joey. And, you know, we've talked about it in the open, 6 straight Mid-Illini Conference championships on the line here. I mean, they know how much it means to the Morton community and everything else that surrounds it. So you bet they're going to play their hearts out these last 6:40 to try and come back.
Cummings for Dunlap. And, of course, the Mid-Illini Conference tournament looms. We'll tell you about that in just a second. Crazy sequence in front of the scorer's table. And
I think this is a Morton ball here, Joey. It looked like it bounced off Remmel to me. And you see the refs discussing it here. And we'll see what we get.
It'll go to Dunlap. That almost looked like a fumble in football, right? Loose ball and all the Morton
everybody's scrambling for it.
It'll stay with Dunlap. And Erickson gets loose there on the inbound. Morton defense catches up, and we'll see what she can come up with. 10 guarded by 30. That's Thompson for Morton, and driving in. DeGilinardo was contested well, and a foul there as Cummings got the rebound and took it up.
That's 4 fouls for Katie Krupa now, Joey, and we'll have to keep an eye on her for sure.
Krupa, Morton's leading scorer, with 4 fouls.
And, again, you mentioned that 4th foul. That's something to keep an eye on for sure.
First is off the mark. Mentioned Krupa, Morton's leading scorer entering tonight. Dunlap's leading scorer entering tonight was Remmel. Hold that thought here. Deathly quiet on the free throw.
That might have been the quietest one so far.
Cummings converts. It's a 10-point game. Remmel has 19 points right now for Dunlap. Her career high is 35, set against Pekin earlier this season. Don't think she's going to reach that tonight, but depending on how this one plays out, you never know. But Dunlap has been supplemented well by the likes of Sutter and DeGilinardo and company. See what Morton can do here. They're down double digits again. Hobson wants a 3. That's short. And Sutter the rebound.
Hobson has just gone cold here, Joey, from 3 after we saw her light it up in the first half.
DeGilinardo for Dunlap. And that was keyed by Lily Sutter, the rebound. We've seen her do that a couple of times, Matt, where she'll get the rebound and go.
She knows how to move the ball well across the floor, Joey, and you saw it right there, a prime example.
Frakes for Morton, over to Engel. Back to Frakes, and Frakes sees a lane, had a pass to the basket, and the foul.
That was an open lane for Raquel Frakes to get to the hoop, and big bucket. Morton needed that, to say the least. Cut down some of that momentum and see if she can cash in on the and one.
Raquel Frakes at the stripe. Frakes now with 6 points, would be 7 on the free throw. Morton will make a substitution. It'll be the return of Paige Griffin. Junis heads back towards the bench. Junis played a good stretch there.
She did indeed, and got a couple of big baskets for the Morton Potters. And now if you're Morton, you got to lock down defensively here these next 5 minutes. The deficit is down to 9, and you think that if it goes back to double digits again, they may be in some trouble, but I don't know, foul called there, and it was a close one. I know some of the Morton players did not like that call.
That'll be the 5th foul against Morton this half, and the 3rd called against Hobson this evening. Foul situation right now stands at 5 for Dunlap and 3 for Morton. And just off to our right in front of our microphone, the Morton bench starting to make a little bit of noise. Morton bench, and that's primarily the Morton JV team in the bleachers.
They need it, though, Joey. We were talking with head coach Bob Becker about how important that bench is, and forced the turnover, just mishandled there by the Dunlap Eagles. You have to think maybe the bench played a little bit of a role there.
See if they continue making noise. See if the Potters can give them a reason to keep making noise. At our last timeout, it's a 9-point game. So, Matt, what do you draw up here? If you're Morton, you've got a little bit of momentum. Inside of 5 to play. Still, obviously, plenty of time. No shot clock, but, 9 points in essentially 5 minutes. You certainly can't sweat it if you're Morton.
No, you can't, and you've got some time here, certainly, but, you are going to have to move quick and convert on your opportunities. I think the biggest thing for me that stood out so far in this quarter is the points that we've seen Morton score has been from them driving to the hoop and drawing contact or just putting it up and getting the bucket without the foul. And they've really struggled from three-point range, and we saw Maggie Hobson go on a tear earlier in this game, shooting from deep, and she struggled a little bit here in the second half. And, if they can find a way to get her some points, that'd be huge. But I would like to see them go back maybe inside to Katie Krupa, but of course she's got 4 fouls. You're going to have to keep an eye on her. And, there's plenty of time, Joey, for them to come back in this game, and just starts with cutting into it one step at a time.
And the first building block of that house right here. See if they can convert. Krupa with 4 fouls, as we mentioned. Frakes trying to lay it in. Can't do it. Rebound. It's going to be Frakes putting it up again and in. And that's a big basket from Frakes.
It is a big basket, and nobody was there.
But Dunlap on the other end, it was DeGilinardo that got free. And she answers. Back to a 9-point game.
I think both teams got caught up a little bit too much at the other side of the floor, and they make each other pay, go punch for punch. 4th foul, though, on DeGilinardo. That's something to keep an eye on, too, for Dunlap.
And she will come out right on cue. Chandler Fassett enters the game.
Yeah, they're going to want to get her back in the game, obviously, as soon as it allows. But with 4 fouls, you just have to be extremely careful for head coach Heather Cassidy and how you play her.
Krupa, nice find to Frakes. Frakes traveled as she put it on the floor and tried to drive inside.
I think that might have been a foul, too, had she continued moving on Julie Sollenberger. And fortunately for the Dunlap Eagles, it's a travel call, and that's a big break there for Dunlap.
Paige Griffin re-enters for Morton. To the bench goes Hobson. See if Morton can find the right formula here. We're just north of halfway done in the 4th quarter.
Nearly a 5-second violation, Joey, getting that ball in, and found a way to do it and draw a foul in the process.
That was Sutter and Engel making contact. Engel, the guilty party there, her 3rd. And a look at the team foul situation. 6 fouls attributed to Dunlap and 4 for Morton. Open is Remmel under the basket. She'll make the extra pass to Fassett. And that may have been a little ill-advised. You like the idea. Tried to find her teammate, but might have had a better look at that if she'd taken it right up.
Yeah, they've been extremely aggressive at getting it down the floor, and you saw just a little bit of hesitation there. Krupa was able to get it for the block.
It's Erickson up top, and now Sullenberger, and Heather Cassidy wants a timeout. She'll get it. 3:45, as you see, left in the 4th. And that has happened a couple times, Matt. Dunlap, it'll be someone breaks free and gets under the basket, and just like that, they either have the basket or a chance at the basket. And in this case, the possession continues. They'll still have a crack at that after the block.
Yeah, they're pushing the floor really hard here, Joey, in the second half, and that's something, like you mentioned, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and saw just a little bit of a hesitation there where Krupa was able to get in and get the block. But I mean, if you're Morton, you really have to lock down defensively and keep track of those players moving down the floor quickly. Otherwise, they're going to have a hard time coming back with such little time. 3:45 to go here in the fourth quarter.
Sutter inbounds to Remmel. Reset it for you real quick. If you're just joining us, you see the score bottom of your screen. Dunlap leading Morton. And the foul situation, 6 assists to Dunlap, 4 assists to Morton this half, so the bonus is coming up. Dunlap in the bonus the next time, and Morton will be there soon. Morton led early, but has not led since Dunlap took a 7-5 lead in the first quarter after some technical free throws. And an open lane for Sullenberger, but she lost it out of bounds.
That was a screen that was set almost perfectly by Lily Sutter, and then it was just mishandled by the Eagles. And that was just I love the idea there from Dunlap, but they can't convert, and Morton gets a much-needed stop, and now a chance to get something going with 3:07 to go.
Got to figure the Potters have to go soon. Frakes gets possession back and looks, finds her teammate. That was Junis just off the mark. Loose under the basket, and Dunlap will run it. Sullenberger will slow it down, and again, we see that transition from Dunlap. It's been so effective tonight.
Saw head coach Heather Cassidy telling her team, hey, just slow it down. Let's take it easy here these last couple of minutes.
And Gillinardo didn't lose it out of bounds. It was last touched by Morton.
We're getting to the point in the game, though, Joey, where Morton is really going to need to rely on some defensive stops here. They really can't afford to let Dunlap put any more points on the board, and they're going to have to find ways to finish at the offensive end as well.
Griffin back in for Morton, and Hobson comes out, and a foul called there. Morton still has a couple to give, so Dunlap will inbound out of the foul.
It's Engel picking up the foul right there for Morton, and you mentioned we saw her a lot in the first quarter of this game. I believe she had 5 points in the quarter number 1, and she's been really strong on the defensive end here in the second half.
Morton still with a foul to give. And Engel has been a big piece all evening long for Morton. We'll have to be careful. She's on the double team there. Goes to Sutter. We'll see how aggressive Morton is, looking to foul. 2.5 minutes left and ticking. They will foul. Had one to give. They'll use it there. That was Sullenberger.
Sullenberger there, like you mentioned, on the foul, and this will be the next one, I believe. We'll put them in the 1-and-1. So, I mean, if you're Dunlap, it's just about holding on to it until you get that open look. They're not going to force anything here at all, Joey.
They're going to make Morton come to them, as Dunlap will put something into motion there. It goes back to Remmel, and Remmel will kick it out. The Eagles will slow it down. Over to Sullenberger, and she's fouled by Frakes. So that will kick off the 1-and-1. So now you get into the situation, pardon me, Matt, where you've got to hope for misses and you've got to hope for capitalization on offense. If you're Morton, not out of it yet, but the door might be starting to close.
Might be, and this is where that door may close for good if they can cash in on some free throws here.
Have a substitution here. That was the 5th foul I should have noted for Engel, so she's out of the game. Sullenberger at the line. First on the way in the 1-and-1. Off the mark, short, rebound for DiGillinardo, and that'll be 2 at the line. A big offensive rebound and a big take there for DiGillinardo.
That just is heartbreaking if you're Morton, and you know, you get that free throw to miss, and a little bit of luck on their end, and then to have them foul, and now you know for sure that they're going to shoot too. It's just a heartbreaker for Morton, and now you got to hope for some more misses here.
Gillinardo first on the way. That's short, so we're going to see 3 free throws here total when you count that last 1-and-1. Dunlap can't make more than one of them. And the second is on the way. That is in. It's a 10-point game. What does Morton have for us? Let's see. Taking it up with Hobson. We saw Washington post a big comeback against Morton's boys team in the waning minutes a couple of weeks ago. 3 on the way from Hobson. Just off the back iron. Rebound Sollenberger. And Dunlap in firm control of this one. It's blocked out of bounds. A nice play from Hobson, but it'll stay with Dunlap. And Matt, I want to stress, it's not over, but you're kind of starting to run out of options.
Yeah, you are. You're getting to the point where you're going to have to foul here and force them to the line, and we'll see how long it takes as Hobson does so right there with the intentional foul. And Dunlap just a couple free throws away, really, you think, from closing out this game.
Last time we will see Dunlap in the 1-and-1 coming up. First on the way from Sollenberger. That one falls, and this is a point in the game where we're going to be quiet here during these free throws.
Yes.
You don't want to alter the shooter.
No, you don't.
Second coming up, and that one falls through. It is an 11-point game again. Make that a 12-point game, pardon me.
Couple of perfect swishes there at the line for Sollenberger.
Morton rolls it in so as not to start the clock. It's Hobson. Hobson to Krupa. Krupa kind of wanted the 3 but finds Frakes. Wants this 3, it's on the way. Just had a little too much on it. Rebound for Hobson and 1, and the Morton bench comes alive.
It's the first points for Hobson that wasn't on a 3-point attempt, and we talked about driving to the hoop and getting something, and it works out there. And now here's an opportunity. We talked about the door opening just ever so slightly. Got to cash in here on the and 1.
You've got to cash in on the and 1, and you've got to play a perfect minute and 33 seconds. Free throw for Hobson. Off the mark. Rebound Dunlap. Couple players were there. Jump ball, and that'll stay with Dunlap. But you've got to credit there, Matt. I think Cowley was there and a couple of others. I know for sure Cowley was there. They swarmed the ball. Dunlap just got there first.
Yes, they did. And nice job, as you mentioned, by Cowley to get there and force the jump ball. And quick inbounds pass, almost stolen.
Nearly stolen. We've seen Hobson there a couple of times. She'll pick up that foul. If you go back to the end of the third quarter, was it the second or third quarter? Irregardless, it was a nice steal and almost score on that same play from Hobson. Didn't get the score, but made a big impact.
Yeah, you got to feel for Hobson. I mean, she's been playing her heart out here tonight and just hasn't gotten much to fall for her in the second half.
First free throw drops in for Sollenberger. And that's been the case for the Potters, I think, all game long. The Lady Potters have gotten a lot of great shots. They've just been a little bit off. Hobson heated up in the second quarter, but ultimately, outside of that, they haven't been overly efficient from the field this evening.
Like you mentioned here, Joey, though, they got to be pretty much perfect from here on out.
Driving in is Krupa. Krupa is fouled. So that's an easy way to get to the line for 2 free throws, and that foul on Sollenberger. Sollenberger, not a starter for the Eagles this evening, but has played big minutes off the bench as she has done so often this season. First short for Krupa.
You mentioned Sollenberger too, Joey. She's been lights out from the free throw line as well for Dunlap, really helping them finish off this game in style.
Krupa's second is in. Sollenberger's a closer, and I think this Dunlap team is filled with closers. Sollenberger has it now, finds Cummings. Nice extra pass to DiGianardo, and a nice touch. So it stands at 13. What does Morton have? It's Frakes. Frakes to Hobson. Hobson 3 on the way, and that one falls. A 10-point game just inside of a minute to play.
Well, you think if Maggie Hobson makes a few more of those shots throughout the night, this may be a little bit closer than it is. But nonetheless, that was a deep 3 and knocked it down no problem. So a 10-point game here with a minute and certainly making things interesting down the stretch.
Crazier things have happened, and we have a final Boys basketball score to report. Morton takes down East Peoria tonight. Boys basketball matchup there. 59-56 win for the Potters in that one. So the Potters will at least score one victory tonight. This game still in the balance. You've got to figure Dunlap's in the driver's seat, but it's 2021. Crazier things have happened, including a pretty crazy comeback posted on the Morton boys team by Washington earlier this season. What comes to mind first? So it's Sutter. Sutter to Sullenberger. She's double-teamed, trapped there, and it's Sutter. We'll see when Morton elects to start fouling. And nearly 20 seconds came off the clock right there.
Yeah, and you saw Katie Krupa telling Raquel Frakes, hey, get over there and foul, because that would have been the 5th foul on Katie Krupa, which of course would have mean she fouled out. And so Frakes picks up the foul, but you mentioned 20 seconds. I mean, it's a huge chunk of time when you're already down by 10.
Sullenberger's first free throw falls in. That's a player that Dunlap wants at the line. Cowley is back in for Morton. Coming out is Griffin. And that one will fall in.
I tell you what, Sullenberger might be the star of the show here in the 4th quarter for Dunlap. Just absolutely electric from the line.
We'll have the official scoring tally on our Twitter after the game. Frakes a rebound. No. Still loose. Dunlap another rebound and a foul there. It was nearly a jump ball situation, but instead a foul, and that'll send DeGallinardo to the stripe. And Matt, you can kind of sense it in the air. Jim Madsen has been here the entire game. Kurt Pegler rolled in about halftime. They have been right off to our right for most of the game. And as we pause for the free throw, they've moved down to the floor. Looks like they're about to get that Dunlap celebration.
Oh, they absolutely are. I mean, it's a huge moment for the Dunlap Eagles and their program, and right in the center of it, as you mentioned, those two.
It falls. It's a 14-point game, and if you are just joining us or if you're not aware of the context, Dunlap is seeking its first Mid-Illini Conference regular season championship ever. Morton has won the last 6 in a row. Would have been 7 if they could have pulled this one out tonight. Heather Cassidy told us before the game, it's our turn. Dunlap's head coach, and it certainly appears they'll get to dance tonight. That's off the mark. Dunlap will inbound, just under 14 seconds to play. And it looks like, Matt Harrington, they'll be able to run it out. Fans rise to their feet.
What a performance, though, Joey, from Dunlap here tonight. I mean, from start to finish, they've really been in control of this game. And, you know, Morton has had little runs here and there, but, I mean, overall, this game has just really been controlled by these Dunlap Eagles. Sophia Remmel, Lily Sutter in particular standing out. I mean, they just get contributions all over the floor, and there's a nice bucket from Cummings.
Cummings gets the late shot to fall. 3, 2, 1, clock expires, shot is short. Morton's reign is over, and Dunlap has won the 2021 Mid-Illini Conference regular season title. And the celebration is on.
Well, congratulations to the Dunlap Eagles, Joey, on their, as you mentioned, very first ever Mid-Illini Conference regular season title. And you see the celebration, and so many of these players have worked so hard to get to this point. You never knew what was going to happen in a shortened season like we got here because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And just incredible season so far from the Dunlap Eagles, Joey. Just the one blemish to Metamora. And I'll tell you what, this is an incredibly good team and so much fun to watch. Just Remmel, Sutter, I mean, you name it. DeGillinardo, I mean, all over the floor they've got scores, and they earned it. As you can see, Kurt Pegler and Jim Madsen getting their interviews ready. And congratulations to Dunlap. This has been an incredible season for them, and they deserve it 100%. And they ended up winning, Joey, by 16 points. Well done.
It is a 58-42 final score. There you see it's Gabby DeGillinardo, on the left, and Lily Sutter on the right. Jim Madsen and Kurt Pegler left and right respectively. We say Mid-Illini Conference regular season title And to kind of clarify that, normally that would be the only Mid-Illini Conference championship you could win. In a normal year, there's the Mid-Illini Conference tournament this year, the added wrinkle with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. But typically, if this were we'll call it a normal year, this would have been the Mid-Illini Conference championship. No tournament or anything to settle that. So, we'll see officially the Mid-Illini Conference champion may be determined by the tournament this year, but the regular season title, it's something that you put so much weight into at the high school level. And Dunlap, regardless of what happens on Saturday, can say, we had the better regular season. We had the better season. It's ours. We've won it. First time in Dunlap high school history.
Indeed, and they should be extremely proud of this accomplishment, Joey. And I'll tell you what, once we do get to that Mid-Illini Conference tournament next week, I don't know if I see anybody beating this Dunlap team. I mean, I think Morton was really probably the best opportunity for them to get another blemish. And, of course, Metamora beat them earlier in the year, but I look at the rest of the Mid-Illini Conference, and it's going to be hard to beat these Dunlap Eagles. And, of course, these teams will meet again at the Potter Dome on Saturday. Chance for Morton to get revenge, but I'll tell you what, this is a very, very good Dunlap Eagles team.
It is, and Gabby DiGianardo talking with Kurt Pegler now, not on the camera. I think we'll pan over there.
Heather Cassidy as well, getting the interview with Jim Matson.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be able to see. John Michael points out there's another camera in our way, so we couldn't head to that part of the gym. And you love it for the athletes. Heather Cassidy talking with Jim Matson, now Dunlap's head coach. But, it's always nice to see your face in the local news. And Sutter and DiGianardo will have that tonight, and rightfully so. They've earned the spotlight. They've earned the attention. A big-time season and a big-time win against a good Morton team tonight. I think we've painted this pretty broadly in the context of the season, but tonight, a 16-point win over the Morton Potters, a good Morton Potters team. I mean, it speaks to the talent level on that Eagles team.
It does, and I think the score wasn't necessarily reflective of what it ended up being. But I mean, you mentioned it, Joey. Dunlap was pretty much in control the whole way through, and Morton cut it to, I believe, 5 or 6 at one point. But, I give a lot of credit to Dunlap for just being able to maintain their lead throughout. And you mentioned it. This is a very good Morton Potters team. And Bob Becker, I'm sure, is going to tell his team that, there's a lot of time left. We've got another game against this team on Saturday and then the Mid-Illini Conference tournament. So anything can happen, but very, very impressive effort from Dunlap here tonight.
It certainly is. With the win on the season, Dunlap now 12-1, both overall and in the Mid-Illini Conference. Morton falls to 10-3, again, both overall and in the Mid-Illini Conference. And that is where we will leave it for you tonight. We will have the scoring leaders on our Twitter here in just a couple minutes. That is at Clutch Sports IL. And stay tuned for what we're up to tomorrow night and Saturday and next week as well. The season may be winding down, but our season's not over until theirs are, so we are hot on the trail. Clutch Sports Media. Busy week ahead. For our entire crew, Josh Schwam behind the controls tonight, and our camera operator, John Michael, the best in the business. John Michael is, by the way, for Matt Harrington. I'm Joey Wright, saying goodbye from Dunlap tonight. A 58-42 win for the Eagles. They win their first Mid-Illini Conference championship in school history. Thank you for joining us, and join us next time.